Good evening. My name is Mary Berry. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Albany County. I do not live in the town of Colonie. Welcome to this candidate event for those running for Colonie Town Board and Town Supervisor. This evening's event is being co-sponsored by the Colonie Chamber of Commerce, the Spotlight News, and the League of Women Voters of Albany County. We wish to give special thanks to the North Colonie School District for making this auditorium at Shaker High School available tonight, to the Spotlight News for live streaming and recording the program for later viewing. There is no audience here this evening out of concern for health and safety of our candidates, the production crew, and our potential audience. The League is a nonpartisan volunteer citizen organization that promotes the informed and active participation of citizens in government and works to increase understanding of major public policy issues. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates or political parties. This forum is to aid in educating the electorate so that on Election Day, voters will be able to make informed decisions at the polls. This year, the general election is on Tuesday, November 2nd. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. Early voting will be from October 23rd through October 31st. You may apply for an absentee ballot in person at the Board of Elections until November 1st. For more information about the voting process and about candidates, go to the League's online voter guide at vote411.org. This includes information from all candidates who responded to League queries. The county and New York State Boards of Elections websites have information as well. Just type in your address and information for you will come up. Note, this year's ballot is a little different as there are 5 statewide propositions to be voted on. Be sure to turn your ballot over to vote on those 5 propositions. The following ground rules have been agreed upon by the candidates in advance and will govern how we proceed. The 6 candidates for Colonie Town Board will speak first. At the completion of their portion, there will be a brief pause as they leave the stage and the candidates for Town Supervisor take their seats. Each of these Town Board candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and 1 minute for a closing statement. Each candidate has been given 2 red cards to be used during the question and answer period. Each card will allow for 1 minute of additional time to add to their response or for them to respond to something another candidate has said after all 6 candidates have addressed the question. The questions being asked tonight come from the community. Everyone had the opportunity to submit questions to a digital lockbox with a deadline of October 18th. The questions have been reviewed for clarity and pertinence to the office. Any personal attacks were discarded. We received many questions and will get through as many as possible this evening. The candidates will rotate who answers first. The candidates have chosen lots to determine order of speaking. Our timer is sitting in front and will give warnings as the time runs out. Our timer this evening is Mary Kate Owens. This evening, there are 6 candidates running for Town Board. They are, in alphabetical order, Antonio Boncordo, Alvin Gamble, Melissa Jeffers, Jeffrey Madden, Jessica Maher, and Alexandra Villela. The Town Board is an elected body that enacts town legislation, holds hearing, and passes resolutions on matters involving town government. It is responsible for adopting the annual budget, adopting and amending the town code, and broadly addressing issues of concern by the citizens. Remember, this is a time for you to learn about the candidates in order to make informed decisions on November 2nd. I want to thank the candidates in advance for participating in our forum this evening. It is now time for opening statements from the candidates for Town Board. Mr. Boncordo will speak first.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Antonio Boncordo, and I'm running for the Colonie Town Board. I'd like to thank the Spotlight, Chamber of Commerce, and of course the League of Women Voters. Everyone involved in supporting the debate this evening. It's both an honor and truly a privilege to be in such an event. Never pictured myself here. Let me begin by saying I'm truly passionate about the future of Colonie and its residents. I grew up in Colonie after we moved from Albany. Son of Sicilian immigrants, every day I saw how hard my parents worked, to create a better life for us and for themselves. My father started at Tobin Packing, and when that went bankrupt, he moved to Altec Steel. He was constantly moving. My mother was a seamstress at Juliet House of Brides for over 30, 40 years. All my parents wanted for their children to attend college and be successful in life. At that time, Colonie was a place where hard work was rewarded. I mean, the atmosphere, the culture, you could buy a house, kids could walk to school safely, people could leave their doors unlocked. We played outside all day and didn't come home till after dinner because, the safe and close-knit neighborhoods we grew up in. After dental school, I knew I had to come back. Italian culture, you come back. Although Boston was beautiful. I want to come back to our town and practice dentistry because of its values and strong sense of community. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to raise my family here where I had such good memories and experiences. That's exactly why I'm here tonight. I'm not a career politician. I have no connections, but I'm a local business owner. I have rental property. I've worked hard. I've taken risk. I just want to maintain the integrity and the positive atmosphere of Colonie. Recently, I've seen too many changes have compromised the well-being of this town. Don't get me wrong, change is good. We're lucky to have the development, but it needs to be a positive change and always in the best interest of the community. The pendulum seems to be swinging, needs to swing back our way. Honestly speaking, our current infrastructure cannot handle all the demands placed upon it due to increase.
Thank you, Mr. Boncordo. Next will be Mr. Madden.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Madden. I'm honored to be a Republican and conservative endorsed candidate for the Colonie Town Board. I'd like to thank the Albany County League of Women Voters, the Spotlight News, and the Colonie Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event tonight. When my family moved to Colonie in 1962, I had the good fortune of growing up in Colonie. I was blessed with safe streets, great teachers and coaches, and many wonderful friends. Colonie is a special place to call home. My father, John Madden, spent decades coaching hundreds of Colonie's youth in Little League and on the Little League and Pop Warner fields, which inspired me to do the same. Not only did I coach Little League and Pop Warner, but I coached football and lacrosse at the high school as well. While I attended college at SUNY Brockport, my father started a small residential and commercial cleaning company, Clean All. I went on to follow his footsteps there as well, taking over the company in 1980. That first business reinforced my entrepreneurial drive, which led me to opening 2 Colonie restaurants, the All Sports Cafe and Madden's. These 2 businesses gave me firsthand experience dealing with various departments at Town Hall, like the building department and the sign review board, from the residents' side of the table. Well, I've been married to my wife, Sherry, for the past 40 years, and together we've raised 3 wonderful children, David, Jacob, and Alexis, and we are the proud grandparents of 4. For most of the past 25 years, I've held management positions in automobile dealerships, managing multi-million-dollar inventories and diverse workforces. And now the number one question I hear on the campaign trail is, why are you running? Well, first and foremost, I love Colonie. I grew up here, my fondest memories are here, and I want to do my part to ensure Colonie remains a safe, affordable, and fun place to live, work, and raise a family.
Thank you. Ms. Villela.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Villela, and I'm running for Colonie Town Board. I want to start by thanking the League of Women Voters, the Spotlight, and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's event, and most importantly, I want to thank the members of our community who are watching tonight. I grew up in the town of Colonie. attended Albany Academy for high school. I got a bachelor's degree from Manhattan College, a master's from Pace, and my JD from Brooklyn Law School. I'm now an attorney and focus my practice on workers' compensation, where I represent municipal workers and laborers who've been injured or disabled on the job. I returned to the town of Colonie from New York City a few years ago when it became clear that the city had been irreparably harmed by years of single-party progressive rule and policies that decimated small businesses and made the city increasingly unsafe. I was sad to see that the town I grew up in, the town that gave me so much, was heading down the same path as the city I just left. Since throwing my hat in the ring, I've made it my priority to speak with as many Colonie residents as possible to hear what their concerns are and to understand the changes that they want to see in our community. I've set my priorities in accordance with the needs of the residents. I want to keep taxes low, keep our community safe, improve our roads, improve our pocket parks, support the small businesses, and reduce congestion and overdevelopment. It's also a top priority of mine to revitalize the neglected areas of our community that have been abandoned under the current administration. Most importantly, I want to provide the residents of Colonie with a local government they can count on. We need to listen to their problems, find solutions, communicate clearly and effectively. The residents of Colonie don't feel heard. Their concerns are not being taken seriously, and they're sick of the empty promises. I'm running for town board because I want to give back to the community that has given me so much. I want to be a voice for the residents of Colonie. Please remember to vote for me, Alexandra Villela, on November 2nd.
Thank you. We'll now next hear from Mr. Gamble.
Hello, my name is Alvin Gamble, and I'm running for the Colonie Town Board. I've been a lifelong resident of Colonie, growing up in the Cook Park neighborhood. I now have the crossings in my backyard. I've worked for National Grid, NYMO, which I'll probably always call it, for nearly 40 years, and I want to bring that experience to the board. Our town has some big decisions to make in the next coming months and years, whether to invest in our infrastructure, including the water, the roads, or decisions regarding our environment. We need someone on the board who knows infrastructure, who has worked with it, and who knows how to make improvements before the shovel hits the ground. I want to protect our town's beautiful parks and make sure our recreational centers are well-funded and maintained. In addition, my family and I use the parks and golf course regularly and want them to be available for the next generation to enjoy. It would be my deepest honor to serve this town that I love so dearly and to be an advocate for all the residents of Colonie. I say thank you, and I say on November 2nd, I would like your vote, and God bless you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, Spotlight News, and the Colonie Chamber of Commerce for putting together this event, despite the many challenges that stood in the way. It's an honor to be here, and I look forward to a respectful and productive candidate forum tonight. 4 years ago, I sat on this stage under different circumstances and asked for your support as I stepped off the sidelines and made the decision to run for office so I could serve my community. Today, I sit before you as the only incumbent on this stage running for Colonie Town Board, and I have never been more confident in my ability to lead and serve. It's fair to say I did not expect my first term in office to include a global pandemic, an economic crisis, a foreign cyber attack, and the height of political divisiveness in this country, to name a few. But these experiences have provided me with invaluable knowledge and skills that I look forward to applying during my next term in office. Since taking office in 2018, I have proudly supported the town's efforts to provide a conservative and balanced budget without compromising on the level, quantity, or quality of services provided to our residents. I've invested in necessary infrastructure upgrades, including investments in our roads, sewers, clean water, all 12 pocket parks, as well as the Colonie Town Park and the crossings, and our recreational facilities, including multi-million-dollar upgrades to the library. I've supported the town's efforts to take action with respect to climate change, including becoming recognized as a climate-smart community in 2018. And finally, my voting record will reflect that I am one of the strongest supporters of public safety, having proudly served on both the Colonie and the Village of Manan's comprehensive police practices and review committees last summer. In summary, I'm running for re-election to the Colonie Town Board so that I can continue the progress. continue moving Colonie forward, and continue securing and protecting the future of our town for those who follow us. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, Ms. Maher.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Maher, and I'm running for Colonie Town Board because I want to make a difference in our community. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, to Spotlight News, and the Colonie Chamber of Commerce for organizing tonight's forum, and to members of the public who submitted questions for us to answer. I've spent my entire professional career fighting for a safe, clean environment, for action on climate change, for funding so that communities can upgrade roads, water infrastructure, and local parks, and for the protection of our forests and farms. And I've done it while helping to create and sustain jobs by partnering with private business, local government, and community groups. In addition to a track record of success in policymaking, I have a record of service. I was proud to serve on the Colonie Comprehensive Plan Committee. I currently serve on the Albany Pine Bush Commission Board, the Capital Region Board of the League of Conservation Voters, and the New York Advisory Board of the Land Trust Alliance. I volunteer for local organizations working in Colonie and the Capital Region. As hard as I've advocated for clean water, clean air, and conservation, I'll advocate for you in Town Hall. I'm a hardworking mom whose greatest hope is that my daughter will grow up and thrive right here in Colonie. As a town board member, I'll listen to you and be your voice in Town Hall. I'll prioritize keeping our taxes affordable, keeping our community safe, and development that works for existing neighborhoods. I look forward to tonight's discussion about the big issues facing our town, and I look forward to earning your vote on Election Day.
Thank you for those remarks. It's now time for the question portion of our program. The questions, remember, come from the community. Each candidate will have up to 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Mr. Madden will answer the first question first. The question is, many candidates are talking about smart growth in this election. What does this mean to you? How will you ensure well-planned development?
Smart growth means that Colonie is a very big town, and what is good for one portion of the town is not necessarily good for another portion of the town. So we have to take a fine comb look at it and see, what works for one portion as opposed to the other. Most of it, what we want to do is get back to redevelopment and have our growth of our tax base come through opening up new businesses where previous business existed, fixing up houses that are blighted. So we have, rundown houses throughout the town, and we need to work to be smart about it.
Thank you. Ms. Villela.
I think a key to smart redevelopment or smart development is community input. The people of Colonie that I have met feel like the development, the progress, if you will, is leaving them behind. They're not part of the process. And when they have made efforts to go into town hall, because some people who've been told that there's 40 new houses going in at the end of their street and they don't even have a traffic light going in, are basically being turned away. They're not being heard and their opinions aren't being considered. It's absurd. And quite frankly, I agree with a lot of what Jeff said. We do need to redevelop some of these areas in Colonie that are blighted, that have abandoned properties on them, and we can use those properties to incentivize local businesses to come in and redevelop the land or improve the buildings that are existing on the land, improve them in the most environmentally friendly way possible and in compliance with all of the latest standards, and we can revitalize Colonie.
Thank you. Next will be Mr. Gamble.
I believe that smart growth deals with developing the community in a way that as we grow, we take consideration of the neighborhoods. We have certain neighborhoods that are growing at a rapid speed, but we have to always be reminded that with rapid growth, we have rapid traffic, we have rapid increase of certain things, and sometimes when we do certain things like that, we have roads that are only 2 lanes and we can't make them any further or any wider, and then we get traffic jams. And we're having that problem in certain areas in Colonie. If we could use some of the areas that have not been used or have been not used recently, like the Railroad Avenue, where we can go there and there's buildings that are sitting there, and maybe reuse those old buildings instead of putting everything on Wolf Road or Sand Creek and getting that too congested to move, that would be smart growth. So we just have to pay more attention on the growth, but also pay great attention to the people who are already living at a certain area. And that's what I think smart growth is all about.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers?
Thank you. Development has been one of the biggest challenges during my first term in office. It's obviously very difficult for anyone to strike a balance between the right of a property owner and the right of a neighboring resident who wishes to live peacefully and have a right to quiet enjoyment. It's a difficult balance to strike. If I am reelected, I will continue to support a balanced and sensible approach to development with a special focus on redevelopment. In the last few years, we have finished the ACO project. That was a huge redevelopment of the abandoned Starlight Theater. We are currently looking at redeveloping the Hoffmans into the Galleria project. We also, as many people know and have read, the Tobin First Prize Center is starting to come down, and that is going to be a huge redevelopment and revitalization project for West Albany. So there are a lot of redevelopment efforts underway, and those are some of the things that I'd like to focus on in my next 4 years.
Thank you. Ms. Maher?
Thank you. This is my favorite question because it's something I care deeply about in my work to protect natural areas in our town and also act on climate change. Smart growth is about forward thinking and what our community will need into the future. It's also about keeping taxpayer costs lower and asset management. Unmitigated sprawl costs us all money and time, and for some people, heartache. We really need to go deeper than the comprehensive plan did. And one of the things I struggled with on the comprehensive plan was that it treated the town as a monolith. We need to think about what each neighborhood needs. We need to do planning at the neighborhood level. And we also need to make sure that we're planning for the future. We need to plan for options for people to commute outside of cars, like bikes, walking. And we need to make sure that we're taking care to take neighborhood needs into consideration as we're permitting development going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Boncordo?
Well, I usually start from the back. You know, smart growth has to do with the problems. Obviously, we've all addressed them. You know, the congestion, the traffic. I go through this stuff, and sometimes the roads are county, they're state. We can't do much about it anymore. So then what are you going to do? The key, I think, that overall will take care of everything is approaching developers, you know, really talking about buffers, as you guys said, the natural environment and whatnot, but more importantly, density. We say, you know, the last 3 developments I saw, they went from 150 units to 38, 80 to 38, 20 to 11. I think overall we're a cut through. People are going to come through Colonie. We know that. There's roads we can't, you know, utilize and do what we want with because they're county or state. The bottom line is we just need to possibly make setbacks larger, you know, lots bigger maybe. And you know, density is going to be the number one issue. You have to work backwards to the true problem. We can look like downstate in a matter of time. The horse is out of the gate now. So it's an overall view where we have to create a win-win with the developers and the town. The Central Avenue area, we need trades. I would love to bring in plumbers, carpenters, and electricians, partner up with Hudson Valley, and take Central Ave, take those buildings and cut the profit 50-50, flip those buildings and make them new.
Thank you. Our second question will be answered first by Ms. Villela. And the question is, What do you propose to do to make Colonie a more sustainable community and to adapt to the climate changes occurring?
Obviously, climate change is something that concerns everybody. I would say that we are off to a good start. We've adopted initiatives like the LED lights going in, which will not only make our community a more environmentally friendly place, but will also end up saving us money in the long term. I think a big component of being environmentally friendly is incentivizing businesses that are going to redevelop some of the blighted properties, as I previously stated, to do so in a manner that is compliant with the latest environmental regulations. That will be a benefit. I think that redevelopment will also allow for the existing green space to remain that green space. And eventually, we can get to a point where we are not only growing and progressing and fostering a healthy small business economy in our town, but we are also doing it in an environmentally friendly way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gamble.
Yes. Well, that's a really good question. And I like to use my experience with my 39 years at National Grid to talk about how we are doing certain things with a big company, using things like an electric backhoe instead of a diesel backhoe, using other things of having trucks that will, after being idled for a certain amount of time, will be shutting off. We need to take those kinds of ideas and not only use them for a big company, but use them for the town. Let's be more environmentally safe. Let's do things that will help the environment and still get the job done. Sometimes when we look at certain things as innovative, we just don't want to use them, and they may cause a little friction in the beginning. But we have to think about this planet, and we only have one planet. We need to save the ozone layer, and sometimes we might have to do certain things in the very beginning, but in the long run will pay great dividends. So as long as we all think alike that this planet is ours and it's the only one we have, and then work together, we can solve all the problems or some of the problems, but we have to start now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Thank you. During my first year in office in 2018, the town of Colonie took the Climate Smart Community Pledge with the town of Colonie, and that was one of the first big steps in advancing our recognition level with the state to become certified. Since that time, I've supported the efforts where we invested in hydroelectric power, which provides credits to the town and offsets our own electrical bill by an estimated $200,000 annually. We've also recently entered into the agreement that Ms. Villela was talking about, where we're going to be swapping almost 4,000 of our streetlights to LED lighting. We've added electric vehicles to our fleet. We've added EV stations in town. We're growing our open space fund by increasing the GEIS fees. So there's been a lot of work done in the last 4 years. And if I'm reelected, I am committed to advancing our climate smart community recognition. Now that we have a task force created, we're looking forward to moving forward and becoming bronze certified. And beyond that, there's going to be other opportunities for us to work together and to make sure that we're a sustainable community and that the future is protected.
Thank you. Ms. Maher.
As a career-long environmental advocate, I'm thrilled that this is a question in a debate. So I'm very happy, and I appreciate the residents who put that question in. I'm thrilled that Colonie is a climate-smart community, and we need to do work to increase the level of community we're in. We can do more. We can get more credit from the state and hopefully bring more state funding in to do this work. We can increase opportunities for people to use bikes or pedestrian options instead of driving and reduce vehicle miles traveled. We can build out our electric vehicle infrastructure, particularly in our commercial sector. We can also use more renewable energy. We can continue our partnership with the Albany Pine Bush Commission to conserve habitat for endangered species and build on the information that's given to residents in the annual water quality report about water conservation. And we can build on our planning to increase the impact of conservation subdivisions and do more to protect open space, to protect our local farms and our local forests that sequester carbon.
Thank you, Mr. Boncordo.
Pretty much everything has been discussed that I was going to say. So on this level, what I'm going to bring in is one idea. This all costs money. Everyone's talking about everything, but it costs money. At a time right now when people are struggling, I think realized gains from renewables is excellent. I agree with everything. But I'd like to get things going even quicker. I'd like to do a public-private partnership in which we realize an ROI immediately rather than discuss things. Let's bring the companies in, be it hydroelectric, continue to monitor the numbers, houses, new construction, built with insulation. I mean, the materials are unbelievable. But let's bring them in, partner up, so we can get this done on a quicker scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madden.
According to the Global Energy Monitor, currently there are 350 coal-burning power plants under construction worldwide, 184 in China alone. More than one per week are scheduled to open this year. So obviously, we're not going to solve climate change here. But what can we do? The real question is, what can we do to make Colonie as environmentally friendly as possible? Go to my website, electjeffmadden.com, and there you'll see some of my ideas, like using plastics meant for landfills to infuse into asphalt in the resurfacing of our highways and roads to make them last longer. You can also use recycled tires for subsurfaces and strengthen our roads so we don't have to replace them and we don't have potholes as often. So there's a lot of things we can do to use recycled materials that we haven't thought about yet. We keep doing things over and over and over the same way, and I'm suggesting we come up with new ideas. Have we made a plan for installing more charging stations for the onslaught of electric cars that are coming? There's a lot of things we can do. Go to my website, check it out.
Thank you. Then Mr. Gamble will answer the next question first. The question is, what is your stance on COVID vaccine and mask mandates?
Well, I believe that I have my shots, and I'm going to get the booster shot also. I believe for us to move forward, I think it's our responsibility as a country, as a state, as a town, for us to get our shots, to get our booster shots, to wear our masks. Not only are we protecting ourselves, but we're protecting our fellow man and woman. I know there's some things that people are saying that we have a right and we should have an individual right to make a decision. But I honestly believe that if you are harming someone else, that you're taking some of their freedoms and their freedoms and some of their due process also. So I really do think we should get the shots. I do think we should wear a mask. And I'm not saying, like force it and put it like that. I wish people would just do it voluntarily. But if they're not, I think we have a right to, for our kids' sake and for the whole society, to everyone to get vaccinated, keep their mask on until we can get rid of this pandemic, and so we can move on.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Thank you. I am also fully vaccinated, and I am a strong supporter of wearing masks. I believe that just the same way that other people believe that they might have a right to not need to wear a mask, I believe that I have a right to feel safe when I go to work, when I am at the grocery store, or wherever I go. So similar to what Alvin was talking about, there are a lot of freedoms and due process that come into question with this. But given the fact that we have lost so many lives to this virus, I think the responsible thing for people to do is wear a mask, be courteous. We're all going through this together, and we're going to come out of it together if we can build community and stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maher.
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to follow the science. And right now that's hard to do because it keeps changing. We're in an unprecedented time. We're facing a new disease. And I think we're all a little bit scared. I know this is something that's been scary for my child as she went back to school this year after being at home for a year learning remotely. And what studies are showing now is that when we go to school or we go to church or we go to the store and we wear masks, less people get sick. And I think our goal right now is to make sure less people get sick, less suffering exists in our community. I'm hopeful that as they continue to research this disease, vaccines and masks and protocols will become more clear. and it won't change as much from day to day. But right now, I think the best advice we can give for the town and for each other is to follow the science, and to make sure that we're taking care of each other, we're getting vaccinated, and we're wearing masks to protect each other.
Thank you. Mr. Boncordo.
I fully believe in vaccinations from polio to now. I think we should, rather than, mandate, we should bring it power down to the local level and allow people more stations for vaccinations here, get people involved. And I think it comes from the community level where people actually speak to each other and are less hostile. This is a really hostile topic I'm seeing. And I think we just have to get the discussion going more and bring it down here and not make it a political debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Madden.
My son Jacob lives in Manhattan, and when the epidemic was in a full-blown firestorm in Manhattan, he decided to come home and stay with us for a couple months and have it be my wife and him both got COVID. My wife to the point where we actually took her to the hospital the one day. We were living in fear, and we were checking our temperature. We were checking our oxygen levels. It's for real. Now, my son and my daughter are both vaccinated, but I believe there is still personal choice. I've read my pocket constitution several times, and I can't find the place in there that says you give up your freedoms during a pandemic. We are Americans. We are free to make our choices. And there's okay, that's enough. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Valella.
I will start by saying I am fully vaccinated. My family's fully vaccinated. And I did it because honestly, I'm scared of getting sick. And with that being said, I'm going to say that I am absolutely anti-vaccine mandate. I think people need to be responsible and people need to protect themselves, and they need to be respectful of others. But what I'm afraid of is that with a vaccine mandate, our hospital workers, our police, our firefighters, our EMTs could be out the door. And I was in the emergency room with my stepfather a few weeks ago. We were there for over 12 hours before we even got seen by anybody. I'm terrified to think what will happen with the reduced staffing that may come from people resigning from their positions due to the vaccine mandate.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Ms. Jeffers. My wife and I are senior citizens and have been residents of Colonie for almost 20 years. We enjoy the bike trails and have been playing pickleball for the last 3 years. Pickleball gives us an opportunity to both get exercise and to socialize with the many friends we have met through playing. Any near-term plans for more pickleball courts?
Thank you. I'm very glad this was asked. This has been one of the more fun things that I've had the pleasure of working on in the last 4 years, which is pickleball. This is an emerging sport. It is very well known in town. We have people in town that are traveling to Queensbury and all the way up to the Canadian border to play on courts and share courts with other people. It's a big deal, and it's coming to Colonie. There were plans this year. We were trying to get them in this year to the Colonie Town Park where the tennis courts currently are located. That is still the plan. It has been a little bit extreme with weather patterns this year and paving schedules, but pickleball is coming, and I'm looking forward to the way that it'll benefit the community and the residents who have been waiting for it. I'm also looking forward to seeing how it seems that it's very multi-generational, that there's families who are playing, there's younger kids who are home from school that go out with their parents now, and it's just a really exciting thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing that project to completion if I'm reelected.
Thank you. Ms. Maher.
Well, I've met a few single issue voters at the doors, and their issue was pickleball. And it didn't surprise me because my father is one of the most avid pickleball players I know. And I really now understand from, watching him and hearing his joy, why this sport is so important to people. I think Colonie has great recreational amenities, but clearly there are needs that we're not meeting yet. And I think one of the most exciting and gratifying parts of being on the town board will be able to create new recreational opportunities for all generations. Pickleball is a great example, and there are a lot of other needs. So I think the more that we can do to think about how to creatively fund and site recreational amenities in neighborhoods across the town, the more our community will benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Boncordo.
Once again, all my life I've come from a more fiscal conservative, and with budgets where they are and stuff, I'm sure pickleball is fun, basketball, tennis, everything. As long as we have it in the budget to do, I would love to get pickleball courts. But like I said, I'm going to go line by line, on the budgets. I'm going to see where we have. And if we can add pickleball courts, I'd love to do it.
Thanks. Mr. Madden.
Yeah, I think the pickleball courts are basically a quality of life issue. And when I grew up in Colonie, our parks and recreation was second to none. I'm sad to say, as I sit here tonight, it's not the case anymore. For those of you out there that use the county golf course, the course is almost unplayable. The pickleball courts that they want to make over at the Colonie Mohawk Park, they're going to have to resurface completely because they've allowed the concrete or the blacktop to buckle and hasn't been resurfaced. There's no nets for tennis. We can't even do the things that we've been doing for years, and now we're going to add pickleball, which I am all for adding pickleball. As a coach, as an athlete, I think it's great, and it can be used for years and years, but we need a full, comprehensive approach to rebuilding our recreation department.
Thank you, Ms. Villela.
I guess to reiterate something that Jeff just said, we've got those tennis courts sitting there that are they're basically unusable. They don't even have nets. My understanding is something happened they were going to put pickleball courts in at one point, but then they realized halfway through the process that the land was privately owned or encroaching on an adjacent lot that was privately owned. So, your tax dollars at work, they had to scrap that one. We need to maintain what we have. We need to make sure our facilities are multi-purpose facilities. There's no reason why we can't improve the quality of the tennis courts and make them a multi-use facility. We should be in a position where we can add to the infrastructure we have, but quite frankly, I see the way we're maintaining existing structures and it's sad. I'm all for pickleball courts. I would say as soon as there's money in a budget for pickleball courts, they should be a top priority because it's what the residents want. We need to be smart and paying attention while we're doing these things, and it just seems like someone is asleep at the wheel.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble.
Well, I'm all for it. I've talked to the superintendent of Parks and Recreation, and I got to tell you, when families play sports, and I've come from a big sports family, it keeps them together. Just the activity and there's so many different things. There's the camaraderie of the sport. There's just going out to doing something together where families can stay together and not everyone going different directions. So I am all for it. As for the other activities with Colonie, I also grew up in Colonie playing sports, and I'm going to tell you, we've had a great parks and recreation. I believe that all these activities that we've had has made people been recognized for Colonie. Last week when we had the Hall of Fame, some inductees and other people coming here at Colonie, South Colonie. It was a very good occasion to see people from the track and field, people from the football, people from baseball, all get together. So adding another activity, pickleball, I think would be lovely, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be answered by Ms. Maher first. The question is, in your view, what role do locally owned and operated small businesses play in the character and livability of a town like Colonie?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. You drive down Wolf Road and sometimes you can forget that there are small businesses in our town because we have a lot of those chain businesses that have come in. But growing small business is absolutely essential to ensuring that future generations can continue to have a great life and a great quality of life in Colonie. Small businesses are the backbone of our community. And over the last 2 years, a lot of our small businesses have been deeply impacted by COVID and all of the closures and the issues that went along with it. So, really we need to work hard and think as we're budgeting about what we can be doing to specifically support our small community level businesses and make sure that not only do they have a place here in Colonie, but they're able to grow and thrive because, that's how we lift people up in our community. And it's how we can make sure that generations to come have an opportunity here.
Thank you. Mr. Boncordo.
Well, having three small businesses, having a payroll, how many people here have a payroll and worry about their employees, who are making ends meet? Colonie has allowed me through relationships to grow my business. But let's face it, 1 out of every 10 small businesses fail. We're not doing a good job because of the mandates coming down from a one-party policy over 34 years. The mandates are killing small business. We all love our pensions. My dad had no pension. Altec Steel went bankrupt. Tobin Packing went bankrupt. We need to do a lot more for small business. And I think all of us should have a business for a year or two with employees. Then we really see where the metal hits the road. Okay. When you see people needing that and you see what's going on, here in Colonie, we're so lucky to have the wheel we have commercially. Other municipalities don't have that. But let me tell you, there's not nearly enough being done. And that's a whole nother conversation I can't even have here.
Thank you. Mr. Madden.
Yeah, as I said in my opening statement, I was fortunate enough to have several businesses in the town of Colonie throughout my lifetime. And I understand firsthand the importance in what a small business brings to the community. They're not detached from the community like some of our bigger businesses. And we need to do everything we can do, especially after the pandemic and the downturn in the economy and the worker shortage and the selection of our government to say who can be open and who can't be open and close all of our small businesses, but let people go to Home Depot or Walmart's, but not to our small businesses. We need to recertify that we are interested as a town in promoting our small businesses and putting them first for a change instead of last.
Thank you. Ms. Villela.
Well, I would say that a lot of people will stand here and blame COVID for the failure of small businesses in the area over the last 1.5 to 2 years. It's been a problem for way longer than that. I have watched, when I lived in the city and I'd come home through college and law school, every time it was like we were just reduced more and more. And it's insane to me because we have the perfect town for this kind of space and this kind of infrastructure to go in. We have land that is just sitting there with these vacant buildings on it. We should be incentivizing small businesses to come into this town, to revitalize those spaces and to build up the local economy. We're not doing that. And I think a big part, at least on the local level, would be cutting as much red tape as possible and making it easy to come in and build a business that people will patronize with their friends and their families, that will give kids something to do, that will give the elderly something to do. There's no reason why we have nothing but big box store after big box store and like 52 Marriotts on Wolf Road. That's it. It's all gone. I don't know what happened, and this is not the town I grew up in. So it would be my mission to make sure that red tape is cut and that we are making it possible for small businesses to come in here and build and thrive.
Thank you. Mr. Gamble.
Yes, I also like small business. I call it the mom and pop shops. I personally, within the last 2 weeks, have visited certain small businesses, just to name a few, build a better burger. I went to Ralph's 2 days ago, and the people at Cornwall Appliances, they worked on my stuff. So we do have small businesses in Colonie, but we have to go to them. We have to go past the Lowe's and the Home Depots and go to some of our small businesses. Curver Cream has been in a stand-up place for many, many years. So we have to go to these small businesses. So don't say they're not there. We just have to go to them. Maybe some of the bigger places look more glamorous, but some of the small businesses that I still go to, like I said, I've been there this week. I go there because I know the people there. We've been going there for 30 years, and they're gonna strive if we go there and make them strive. We can't go past them and then talk about not having them. So the small businesses are here to stay. We just got to go to them and patronize them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Definitely. I would like to echo two statements made by my teammates over here. I believe that small businesses are the backbone of our community, as Jessica said, and I also believe that we have an abundance of them. Could there be more? Absolutely. There's no limit. But they're there. We need to word of mouth start supporting our small businesses. We can incentivize them. Apart from my role as a Colonie Town Board member, I have started a community group on social media. And I started that during the pandemic because I saw our businesses struggling. I saw our residents with nowhere to turn or go. And I saw that our town employees were feeling, a little bit under recognized because they're working through the pandemic and they don't see, they're not seeing the rewards at the end. And through this group that I created, the Proud to Be Colonie group, I was able to spread word of mouth, start information sharing. We're all home. We can all support each other. We just need to get word of mouth around and start supporting our small businesses. They are there. They exist. They're looking for our support. They give back to the community. And as Jessica said, they are the backbone of our community.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Mr. Boncordo first. And the question is, the Capital Region has seen an uptick in crime over the past 2 years, and Colonie is no exception. Do you feel the Colonie Police Department is properly staffed and funded to meet this challenge, and what other strategies would you deploy to help reduce crime in town?
First and foremost, with some of the environment, Colonie Police had the lowest amount of recruits from what I saw the last test. Problem is crime is everywhere. It's it's on our borders. If it's not here, it's on the Schenectady side, it's on the Albany side. And we're seeing an uptick here in Colonie, there's no doubt, and we're going to. I think just supporting our police force, the best manner possible, helping out. A lot of the senior communities you see in the area, the older people watch the houses for each other. At times, they're better than a surveillance system. They know who's coming in and out of everybody's house. They're home all day. So I think having that close-knit community and, putting more of a presence on the areas is all we can do at this point. Getting into the community, there's programs there, graduates that I went to Shaker with are all cops now retiring, some are still there. And the body's ingraining in the community is going to be the key to where, we're not at a constant confrontation, that's been out there. Thank you.
Mr. Madden.
Colonie's lost its title as the safest small town in America. In fact, the latest annual police department report shows Colonie has over a 33% increase in violent crime. We have less patrolmen, less detectives, and less dispatchers in 2021 than we did in 2019. How does that make sense? We need to give our police all the resources they need to keep us safe. But they also need us to speak up and make our voices heard to the state and nationally that we're fed up with bail reform. We're fed up with policies that continue to infringe on our ability to keep our small town safe. That's why I'm running, is because I want to be part of the firewall that keeps the craziness that's going on in this country from affecting the town I love so much.
Thank you, Ms. Villela.
Okay, I guess to echo what Jeff said, you know, we were once the safest town in America, and I believe it's a 34% increase in violent crime in this community. I would say a lot of that can be attributed to bail reform on the state level, and we need strong leaders who will advocate for the people of Colonie who want their streets to be safe. We will not stand for this, and we will encourage Albany to make sense, make rules and make laws that make sense. I will also say this, our police are incredibly important to keeping crime rates low. And I am in no way, shape, or form a supporter of defunding the police. I know there are people on the stage who have the Working Families line, and a major tenet of their platform is, in fact, defunding the police. If, in fact, they do not believe that, as some have said, they are either, essentially, they're either political opportunists or there are defunders up here. Neither of those things are something that I will stand for in the community I love and the community I want to keep safe.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble.
Yes. Having been a criminal justice major at Brockport State, I am a strong believer in the police force. Many of my friends are fellow police officers, and I myself was going to go into the state police other than going into National Grid. So I'm a strong component of police. Our county, our nation all of us have been going through some stuff because of the pandemic. We were a very safe community many years ago, being on the top, I think, 100 safest communities with less than 100,000 people in it. That has gone away, but that has gone away with a lot of people. We can get that back. I believe Colonie is still a very safe place to be. I believe our police force are doing a wonderful job. I think people don't realize it's a very tough job, and it's getting tougher each and every day. So we need to stand behind our police and let them know that they have our support. It takes a community. It doesn't just take a police officer. It takes a community. It takes some people watching over our houses, like I've heard already today. Some of our best policing comes from our neighbors and watching over each other's houses. That's what we grew up in. Mm-hmm. We grew up where I grew up on Huckleberry Lane. We used to have the key underneath the mat. And you know what? Our next door neighbors knew exactly where it is, and we all shared things. We need to get back to that. So the police are I believe they're doing a wonderful job. They need our support, and if we all work together, it'll come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Thank you. I'll start by saying the Colonie Police Department is one of the highest recognized police departments in this state, if not even recognized nationwide. The men and women of the Colonie Police Department are absolutely incredible. The issues that some of the candidates are discussing with regard to a decrease in the number of patrolmen or this or that, those are not, in this town, it is not a budgetary issue. It is a recruiting issue, as stated by Mr. Boncordo. When I served on the Colonie and the Village of Manans Comprehensive Police Practices and Review Committees last summer, this conversation came up a lot. We were able to speak directly with the police chiefs and ask, what are the pools of interviewees look like? And, who's returning these applications? Are you getting a wide net of people? And we were able to sit down with our community stakeholders and brainstorm ways to reach out to the community, to cast a wider net, to cast a more diverse net on our police force, and to support the men and women of the police department. And going forward, some of the suggestions that were made with respect to the police department itself and their policies and procedures were to increase the bias and sensitivity training to a more annual schedule. And obviously the recruiting that I've just talked about is huge for our two departments here. So as I stated in my opening statement, I am a strong supporter of the Colonie Police Department. I have never voted in any way, shape, or form to take money away from that department, nor would I. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maher.
Thank you. As a mom raising a child here, police are a key priority for me because I want to make sure she can keep riding her bike down the street with her friends safely, and she can, go outside and play safely, and that our community can remain a safe place. It's a huge quality of life issue. It's a serious safety issue. And I absolutely support our police department. I also support their work with community. And I think that's been really important in Colonie. It sets our police department apart. I'm a little bit more concerned, though, about the backlog in our court system and the serious mismanagement that's going on in the Colonie court system that's slowing down justice. As our police go out and catch criminals, there's a huge backlog to having those cases moved. And that's a serious issue and a delay in justice. And I think that's a big issue facing our police. I'll also note that while our opponents want to talk about which lines were endorsed by, I was sued multiple times as I got into this race so that they could try and throw me off of that line. And then several Republican candidates in Colonie tried to primary onto the Working Families Party line. So I really don't think that has anything material to do with any of us as candidates or our position.
Thank you. The next question will be the last, and Mr. Madden will answer first. The question is, the town of Colonie is comprised of more than 57 square miles and 82,000 residents. Our at-large system of representation has existed since Colonie was a fraction of the size, we are today. Would you favor a geographic system of representation, the ward system, as an example, to enhance balance and accountability? Why or why not? Mr. Madden.
I think something like that would be something that we would have to take a deep dive study into. My first impression is it's hard enough to get good people like we have here to step up and run for office. And if we held it to segmented by districts, we could potentially lose good candidates. But, that's just off the top of my head. I haven't really thought about that.
Thank you. Ms. Villela.
I think, I do agree with the idea of a ward-based system. However, I feel like every candidate up here has made it their business to represent everyone in Colonie and give everyone an equal shot at, being a voice in their community. I have concerns along the lines of Jeff's concerns where, if we are restricting things geographically, you will stifle the voices of some good people. I know Alvin lives right down the street from me, so we might have a little problem there, I think that it's important that we get to know our community as a whole and we vote and act with all of their interests in mind, not just the interests of the few that live right near us. It's not, the issues are townwide, the police operate townwide. We need to focus on the community at large and benefiting everybody. The commercial districts are there to serve everyone in Colonie, not just the people that may live immediately in that area. So it's important that, everybody is looking at our town as a whole and paying attention to the individual needs of each neighborhood, which I think our system as it stands is achieving.
Thank you. Mr. Gamble.
Well, I believe, first of all, we do have a big town. The town of Colonie is a large town. I didn't realize it was this large until I started canvassing it. But what I do believe is that the way our system is right now, without tweaking it, I think it works for everyone. Yes, there's certain areas maybe don't get the attention that some areas get because they're maybe not as close to, we'll just say Colonie Center, and there's some outer side boundaries where you get to where the lines of Schenectady and Colonie kind of interchange. But overall, I believe that everyone has a voice, just like all six of us who are here. I believe that we all can get around in this community, and we do a pretty good job of trying. I know we all do a pretty good job of getting to each area when we were all canvassing. We bumped into each other on many times. With that being said, I think what we have now, it's not broke. Let's not fix it. You know what I mean? What we have, anyone in this town could have been in these 6 seats. But it takes a determined man and woman to do what we've done to get here. And if anyone else wants to try to do it, they can. But it's a really hard job, and I think we represent the town of Colonie very well, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Thank you. In my entire folder of preparation, this is one question I did not prepare for, so I will be honest. I think there are definitely pros and cons to both sides of this issue. I hear what Mr. Madden is saying, and I understand it. I think that is a very, and as Ms. Villela said, I mean, you guys living right near each other, both of you wouldn't be here tonight if that were the case in this town. That being said, I personally would rather hear what the residents think about this. I'm a Colonie Town Board member. I'm here to represent the residents. What do they think? I'm here to serve you. I want to know what you think about a more centralized system or a ward system or a district system. Would you rather have a representative that you can go to who's within your own neighborhood or within your own district, or does this system work for you? Really, I think we need to vet the idea to the public and have a candid discussion with everyone about that if it's something we're going to look to in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maher.
Thank you. And I agree first and foremost with Melissa about having a community level conversation about this. I think that would be a great idea. And I actually think this is an interesting issue. I know it's been discussed in the past. And it's something that's now coming up again. I do hear it from residents I speak to. You know, I think the question is going to be both about function of our government and making sure that we're functioning appropriately and adequately for the people, and also budget, right? You know, if we have districts, how many do we have? How many town board members do we need to have? So there's big implications. It might be a combination. It might be that you have several at-large members and then a councilmatic district system as well. So, you know, I think that this is something that the town of Colonie, as big as it is now, particularly with our population growing and the needs in different neighborhoods being so diverse, I think this is a really interesting issue that we should sink our teeth into going forward. And it's one that would be great for community conversations.
Thank you, Mr. Boncordo.
Sixth position really leaves you very little. But listen, here's the deal. Pretty much, I've walked, just like Calvin said, everywhere. We all have. I've seen so many different. The key is in the constituents, from the seniors who are on fixed income to the people living in Shaker Bay. It comes down to the person that's elected to see across everything and work with everyone. And I think, you know, ward versus geography, they have their benefits, like everyone said, but you have to be in there with the people. You have to see it. And coming from nothing to being a little bit of something, I've seen all ends of it. And I think it's about the person that's going to take and see all aspects and take the time. People on the outer ends were shocked that we got to them. Oh my God, you guys are here? And we're like, yeah, we're here. I mean, I went down to Clifford Road and couldn't believe it. They wanted my signs right there. And it was wonderful to see that. So, I mean, it's about seeing across the aisle and working with everyone. It's the person, not the system. Thank you.
Thank you. It's now time for closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Oh.
They will speak in reverse order of the opening statements. That means Ms. Maher will speak first.
Thank you, and thanks to my fellow candidates for a great forum tonight. This afternoon, as I was finishing my preparation for tonight, my daughter said to me, "Thanks for including me in your comments, Mom." And I told her, of course I included you in my comments. You're the reason I do so much of what I do. My husband, Sean, and I have planted roots here in Colonie. I'm running for town board because I want to make sure that we continue to have a great quality of life today and that our kids and their kids have a bright future here. I bring my passion for our community, for conservation and good government, for pragmatic and collaborative policymaking to Town Hall. And as an experienced advocate, I will work for you by prioritizing keeping our taxes affordable, keeping our neighborhoods safe, and keeping our infrastructure in good repair. My name is Jessica Maher, and it would be my great honor to serve you, my neighbors, as a member of the Colonie Town Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffers.
Thank you. I'd like to again thank the League of Women Voters, Spotlight News, and the Colonie Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's event, as well as the candidates here on stage. It's been a pleasure to be here with all of you. For the last 4 years, I have served as an independent voice for Colonie with a proven record of results. If I am reelected, I will continue working diligently with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. I will continue to move Colonie forward and ensure our town remains the best place to live, work, and raise a family, and I will continue putting people before politics. I look forward to the opportunity to be part of the next administration and really what some might consider the next chapter in Colonie, in the history of our town. And I ask for your support this election season so that together we can continue the progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble.
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters Spotlight Magazine for tonight's debate. All kudos to those running for office. I know how hard you had to work to earn and to represent the people of Colonie. I didn't know before, but I know now. General Colin Powell, respected throughout the world as a patriotic hero, whom I respected, exemplify honesty, fairness, expertise, leadership, and professionalism. I will bring that to the board. Colonie is a great town thanks to all those who served before me, and it can be better again if we all work together. Public safety, our police, our fire, the EMTs all need and deserve our backing. Our service parks, public works families need members of the town board to work and make smart decisions for all for one and one for all. And I am the right person for the job. Let me show my experience of living here for 50 years in Colonie, 39 years at National Grid, work for you. I hope I can count on your vote. God bless you and God bless Colonie.
Thank you, Ms. Villela.
So I'd like to start again by thanking the League of Women Voters, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Spotlight for hosting tonight's event, as well as all of the candidates and the residents of Colonie. It is safe to say that everybody I have interacted with is excited and eager for there to be some new blood on the town board this year. Everybody has said they are fed up with the status quo. They want to see change. They want to see transparency, and I am the candidate who wants to give that to them. I believe we are here to serve the people. We are here to provide you with access to your local government. We are here to cut the red tape so small businesses can thrive. We are here to support our first responders and police so that our community can once again be the safest town in America. We want to make changes that benefit the people. We want to be a voice for the residents of Colonie who have been kept at arm's length for far too long. The people of Colonie have asked for someone to fight for their rights and their interests, and I am here to do that and serve them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Madden.
I'd like to thank my fellow candidates for being here tonight. It was great. But I'd especially like to thank those of you at home that have taken the time out of your busy schedules to watch us tonight. As we've heard, many of us have similar positions on a host of issues. So what separates us? Who has the experience to get things done on day one? Who's always going to defend the police when others may want to defund the police? Who do you trust to maintain our quality of life without excessive increases in our taxes and fees? I believe Peter Crummey, with his 4 decades working to help the people of Colonie, and I, with my many years of experience in the private sector, are ready to get Colonie moving in the right direction. That is why I'm asking for your vote. Thank you, and may God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Boncordo.
In conclusion, thank the League of Women Voters, the Spotlight, and the Chamber of Commerce, and God, I can't believe I'm here. You've listened and heard to the other candidates here tonight speak about the future of Colonie. What I can tell you is I've listened to the residents of Colonie, my patients, community members, neighbors, family, and friends, and I've heard loud and clear what is on their minds and concerns. I've personally witnessed the exponential change to our town since I grew up here when my parents came from Italy. I can tell you some has not been in the best interests of our residents. That's why I'm here today running for a seat on the town board. This is a lot of work. To represent the issues of our residents. I've heard from seniors on fixed incomes who are feeling the pain of the devaluation of our currency. I hear the daily frustrations of the state of the roads, traffic beyond commuting hours, development does not always make sense. It adversely affects adjacent neighborhoods, water running onto others from developments. Personally, my family's felt the negative effects of this type of development. I've also heard many concerns over safety and taxes. I'm not here today because I'm a career politician. Again, I have no
Thank you.
connections, but the rather son of immigrants came to the town to create a better life. A local hope.
Thank you, Mr. Boncordo.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your participation, allowing the voters to learn about you and your thoughts on issues in Colonie. It was lovely to have you here this evening, and this is the end of your portion of the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. If you are just joining us, my name is Mary Berry. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Albany County. We are about to begin the portion of our program to hear from the candidates for Colonie Town Supervisor. In alphabetical order, they are Peter Crummey and Kelly Maticha. Each will give opening statements of no more than 3 minutes and will alternate who speaks first for the remainder of our program. Mr. Crummey will speak first, followed by Ms. Maticha. Mr. Crummey.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. I'm Peter Crummey, and I'm running as the Republican and conservative candidate for Colonie Town Supervisor. I wish to thank the Spotlight newspapers, the Colonie Chamber of Commerce, and the League of Women Voters of Albany County for once again sponsoring this fabulous event. I'd also like to thank those watching this evening and Shaker High School for making their auditorium available for us this evening. Thank you for your interest in our Colonie Town elections, and I extend a welcome to my opponent. I was born and raised in Colonie, and I chose to make Colonie my lifelong home, raising 5 children who grew up safe and sound. I've committed over 40 years of my life to servicing our town, including most recently 21 years as our town judge. I care about Colonie, so last March I made the decision to step off the bench and run for town supervisor. Prior to serving as our town judge, I served as our town's zoning board attorney for 13 years and as an Albany County legislator from Colonie for 8 years, where I served as the minority leader for 6 of those 8 years and as a law clerk and attorney in our town attorney's office. I have served under 3 supervisors, 2 Republicans and a Democrat, in a cooperative fashion on behalf of our town residents. As part of my public service duties, I routinely participate in a variety of programs designed to advance knowledge of the law for our town residents, including our students of all ages. As a county legislator, I worked in a bipartisan manner. An example of this work was reinventing the Albany County Airport that we know today. I worked on county budgets and served with 2 county executives, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. As the chief administrator of our Colonie Town Court, I developed our department budget, working with both Democrat and Republican town elected officials to get the job done. Colonie is my hometown, and as town supervisor, I will work to maintain a community where people want to live, work, and play now and in the future. I am committed to maintaining our public safety and enhancing our roads, cell service, and parks. All of us want to keep our property taxes low. We want to be able to age in place in our homes, just like my parents did. I support police safety programs like Youth Court, DARE, our Civilian Police Academy, and Neighborhood Watch. Join to support initiatives with me to increase membership in our volunteer fire services. Let's revitalize our parks, including our golf course and town park along our Mohawk River. Let's do this all with an eye towards smart growth in order to protect our town's character and infrastructure and take actions to support a healthy climate. Together, we can get this done. Thank you.
Ms. Maticha.
Oh, thank you, Mary. So first, I'd like to thank our gracious hosts and all who are watching at home. My name is Kelly Maticha, and I'm running for Colonie Town Supervisor because Colonie deserves leadership that has the experience needed to address our biggest issues. When I talk to our residents, I hear time and time again about 3 major priorities that our neighbors have. Ensuring development respects existing neighborhoods, that we're improving roads and infrastructure, and that we're maintaining the reasonable tax rate that our residents expect and deserve. I am the candidate with unmatched experience to address those concerns. I earned a master's degree in city and regional planning. I worked for over a decade in planning and economic development, the majority of which was done here right in the town of Colonie, under both Republican and Democratic administrations. And I have more than 2 decades of experience in leadership, community outreach, public meeting facilitation, and communications. On top of that, I'm also a PTA mom, and I've got 3 kids at Colonie High School. I've advocated for our children, our educators, for families throughout our school district. For the past 10 years, I've been proud to organize an annual charity event called the Morning of Kindness. This event connects thousands of Capital Region residents with dozens of local nonprofit human services organizations that help thousands of our neighbors that are experiencing need. It's funny how many neighbors have told me, based off of my website and off of our conversations and compared with my opponent's literature, it's difficult for them to see the difference in what we wanted for the town. And I don't disagree, right? My opponent's literature outlines many of the same issues and ideas that I'd put on my website back in March. Support for public safety and maintaining reasonable taxes, expanded access to amenities like pickleball courts and walking and biking trails, balanced development, well-maintained roads and infrastructure. The truth is, anybody can promise anything, and politicians who've run many times are usually really great at making lofty promises. What Colonie needs to decide is which candidate is most likely to actually get those things done. Colonie deserves better than a leader with unmatched experience in campaigning. We deserve a leader who has unmatched experience working with regional transportation organizations to fix our roads. We deserve a leader with unmatched experience working with our business community to redevelop our rundown commercial corridors and advance innovative and sustainable development. We deserve a leader with unmatched experience in planning, economic development, and conservation, the issues that our neighbors agree are their top priorities. My favorite saying is that a goal without a plan is just a wish. And I'm not a wisher, I'm a planner, and I'm here to help Colonie achieve our community goals. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question will be answered by Ms. Matisha first. The question is, real change happens at the local level. Name 2 concrete actions that you will commit to in order to strengthen relations with the other side of the political aisle.
That is a great question. So I've had the great fortune to work for both Democratic and Republican administrations in the town. And my experience is that there's no Democratic or Republican way to pave a road, right? Like, we want it done efficiently, and we want it done reasonably, and we want it done in a transparent fashion. My goal as supervisor is to work with everyone in this town, regardless of party, regardless of where they live, and make sure that we are developing community level initiatives and planning processes that make sure that everyone's voices are heard, regardless of party, regardless of where they live in the town. So starting a community neighborhood level planning initiative to develop our comprehensive plans, ultimate goals in serving all of our communities. And then also, I think we need to have, oh my goodness, this time situation is difficult. Ultimately, I think we need to have better communication across the town, where in the 21st century, we should be using 21st century communication tools so that people, regardless of who they are and where they live and what party they are, have access to the important information they need to make the important decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crummey.
And thank you very much. And as many of us know, I've served in a bipartisan manner throughout my service on behalf of the town of Colonie. I have developed budgets with both Democrat and Republican supervisors and Democrat and Republican county executives as well. It's one thing for people to say what they might want to do, but we need to be judged by our actions and not by our words. And I have demonstrated in this town for many decades that we have the capacity to not only lead the town, but also do so in a bipartisan manner. I don't believe that town hall should be a subcommittee of a political party. In fact, I believe that when we walk into the tables to work on collective work, and next year, no matter what happens on election day, we will have a bipartisan government. And I look forward to that. I've worked well with all sides, and I look forward to doing that again. I don't want to think that there are barriers that have been created or personal attacks on people. There's no moment for divisive nature here at Town Hall. We don't want to bring the divisive nature of Washington, D.C. into our Town Hall. And I pledge to you tonight that I won't do it if you select me. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be answered by you first. And the question is, What is your position on the sale of recreational marijuana in Colonie?
Thank you very much, Mary. That's a very pertinent question as this starts to unfold in our town and throughout our state of New York. The chief of police, just retired John Teal, has stated before that he believes that as far as the sale is concerned, the retail sale, that he didn't have an objection to that part of it. And I believe the town board is moving forward currently, and they have to do it by the end of the year, to make that statement as to whether to allow the retail sale. The police chief does not believe that we should have bars that people could smoke in because he believes, and as we know from our court system, that the testing for marijuana for driving is a lot more complicated and a lot more difficult than it is for alcohol. And he believes until the technology catches up on marijuana testing, that the town shouldn't at this time embrace a marijuana bar. And therefore, I understand his comments. I've heard the town board speak to it at public hearings that I've attended this year. I believe that's the intention of the town board, and I embrace that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maticha.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, so the sale of marijuana and cannabis in the town of Colonie, I think, is one about being responsible to our citizens. As we are moving forward in growing healthcare costs, in growing materials and supplies costs and labor costs in the town, we need to be looking for alternative revenue generators. And I think cannabis has the potential to provide funding for town operations. That being said, I also agree that the holding off on on-site consumption is a good choice until we have better data about how we're going to manage people who are driving impaired, people who are consuming on-site. Sorry. Until we have better data, we're not going to know how to move forward. But I have a feeling that once we see how the New York State laws are being rolled out, for example, you can consume cannabis anywhere you're allowed to consume a cigarette. So there's nothing to say that people can't go into an establishment, a restaurant, have a meal, and then go out into the parking lot. And as long as there's smoking allowed in the parking lot, there's cannabis allowed in the parking lot too. So we have to see what's going to make sense in Colonie so that we're not losing out on revenue opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes to you first, Ms. Maticha. And the question is, what is your stance on COVID vaccine and mask mandates?
So my number one priority as supervisor, as the health and safety of the people of Colonie. And certainly this pandemic has been devastating to our country and to Albany County, as we are around 400 lost. I mean, that's like the entire Beltrone Living Center lost to COVID. As someone who has spent a significant amount of her career working with vulnerable populations, I am very concerned about how the choices that we have to make as individuals are impacting our collective. So I do support, for example, the New York State government. They have a vaccine mandate, but if you're willing to do weekly testing, you're allowed to opt out. And I think it's our responsibility to ensure that everyone is safe at work, everyone is safe in public places. And if we need to mandate testing and vaccines to do that, then as a community, we need to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Crummy.
Thank you very much, Mary. And you've really touched on a personal subject for me. In late March, I contracted COVID and I was very ill. And I never want to go through that again. But even more than that, I saw what it did to my family and my caregivers that had to tend to me as I was struggling and really couldn't move out of bed. Ultimately, I was taken to the hospital, to the emergency room, and on or about the 6th day. And I was put through a variety of tests to see whether they would keep me there or not. Ultimately, they decided I was threshold and I could go home. I was very scared about going to the hospital. I was afraid that I would be quarantined in there and no one could come visit me. It's a very scary proposition, and I don't want to have my family go through that again. I certainly don't want to go through that again. And I was told that within 90 days after I was finished with the COVID, I could get a vaccine. And on the 90th day, I got a vaccine. So it's important that we each think about how we want to move through that. I'm always wary of government mandates. We have to consider whether it violates a constitutional right. And each time we have to think about whether it overrides a person's right to do certain things. So I want to, wary of mandates, always question the mandate and think about whether it's the appropriate thing to do. I like to lead by example, and true leaders do that. And I did get my vaccine, and I don't want to be sick again. So thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question goes to you first, Mr. Crummey. The question is, what do you propose to do to make Colonie a more sustainable community and to adapt to the climate changes occurring?
Thank you very much, Mary. It's a very important question for all of us as we move forward. Look, I was born in this town. My parents moved to Colonie in 1950, and they worked in a town and developed a town that was sustainable. And I was able to grow in Colonie and then stay here in Colonie and raise my own 5 children here in a sustainable way. Sustainability focuses on making sure that we can leave something for our children and our descendants in order that they can enjoy a strong and healthy community. And that's why I plan on establishing a sustainability committee in connection with my leadership at Town Hall. Look, the bedrock of sustainability is a viable economy. But in that, we need to make sure that we keep an eye on a variety of things. I look forward to bringing persons in from diversified backgrounds, from environmental background, engineering, business sector, cultural, the senior citizens, and at-large members to my sustainability committee so that we all have that in place in our minds on everything we do as we move forward next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maticha.
Thank you, Mary. Absolutely. So sustainability is an important issue, and we are so fortunate in Colonie that we are already a climate smart community, and we have made great progress on establishing a current sustainability council. So my proposal would be to fast track our efforts to achieve bronze level certification. And when you're going for bronze level certification in a climate smart community, that involves, they give you a menu of opportunities and actions that your community can take to become more climate smart. So that's everything from overhauling your development standards so that you are including provisions for charging stations for electric vehicles. It's allowing for less impervious surfaces in your parking. It's really, I think you have to go to that ground level of your zoning regulations, your development standards to incorporate those items and make it easier to do siting of solar projects or other alternative energy programs. And we have such a great start already here in Colonie. I would absolutely continue that and fast track that bronze level certification.
Thank you. The next question goes to you first. And the question is, with all the controversy regarding defunding police, are you in favor of this action for Colonie? Whether you agree or not, please state your reasons. Ms. Maticha.
Yes. So Colonie's police department across the boards is rated as one of the top amenities in our community, that it has unparalleled support of our neighbors. And it is one of the biggest things that when we ask our neighbors what they love about living in Colonie, it's that they feel safe living here. And absolutely, I support our police department. So I do not support defunding the police. I think that we have so many challenges policing in Colonie that frankly, none of our neighboring communities have to deal with. So we have to police differently than our neighbors in Albany, Schenectady, and Troy. And we have to police differently than our neighbors in Guilderland and Niskayuna. So absolutely all of our public safety is supported by myself, the entire slate, and they deserve everything that they've gotten from the community as it is and going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Crummey.
Thank you very much, Mary. As you know, I have worked with the Colonie Police not only as a judge for 21 years, but also as a town prosecutor for 6 years before that. Also worked as a prosecutor for the village of Menands for 18 years. I can tell you that the police efforts here in the town of Colonie are second to none. I spoke at a public hearing that the police put together when they were airing their report, Colonie Comprehensive Police Practices Review Committee. And I said at the public hearing that their work is exceptional. And I had an opportunity for 21 years to review their work product on a daily basis. They're doing a fabulous job. We enjoy strong public safety in this town, not only by the police, but by our volunteer fire and our emergency medical services. I was pleased to read a letter that was published in the Colonie Spotlight just last week from recently retired Chief John Teal. And he noted in his letter that he had spoken to both candidates for town supervisor, but he came down on endorsing my candidacy for Colonie Town Supervisor because of my background and experience in the town government, but also recognizing my capacity to work with everyone. Thank you.
The next question goes to you, Mr. Crummey, first. And the question is, Colonie Finance appears on the New York State, Colonie Finances appears on the New York State Comptroller's list as stressed. What do you think caused this, and what would you do to put the town on a sound financial footing going forward?
Thank you very much, Mary. That's a fabulous question. We've heard about our town budgets for a number of years now. Currently, the stress test, the town is getting close to getting removed from it. The problem and why we're not off of it yet, from what I can understand, is that our rainy day fund has not been up to speed yet. So we need a fund balance that would exceed the controller's minimum. So we have to work to continue to develop the fund balance in order that we can have that safety net as we move forward. I certainly appreciate the state controller and the state controller's office coming in and reviewing and assisting municipalities to make sure they stay on the right course. And I believe that that's what the state controller continues to do. So rather than speak negatively about what has happened or point fingers, I can tell you this: we'll get that fund balance in order, and we'll make sure that we move Colonie forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maticha.
Yes, no, thank you, Mary. Yes, absolutely. When Supervisor Maher stepped into this position 14 years ago, the town of Colonie was left with a junk bond rating. She had to go down to New York City and she had to work with Moody's to negotiate our way out of that. And over the last 14 years, we have built our way back up. We are actually, the technical designation is that we are susceptible to stress. And ultimately that comes down to the fact that we don't have enough cash on hand. That every year we are doing essentially payday lending to get us through our operations at the end of the year until we collect our tax revenue. So we need to be very careful and judicious about how we're crafting our budgets. We have to be clear-eyed and reasonable when we're looking at situations regarding how we are budgeting for supplies and for vehicles and for all of the equipment. So going forward, this is something that I would look forward to working with the town board, with our comptroller, and with the state comptroller to make sure that we are staying on the right path.
Thank you. The next question goes to you first, Ms. Maticha, and it is many candidates are talking about smart growth in this election. What does this mean to you? How will you ensure well-planned development?
Right. And this is really speaking to the heart of my experience. 10 years as a town planner, working in economic development. Smart growth really is about being judicious with your resources and making sure that we are making smart decisions about where to locate our development, as well as what kind of development, that it is sensitive to the neighborhood context that we're placing this development, and ensuring that it's going in places that we already have infrastructure, roads and sewers and water lines. So in order to bring smart growth forward in the town of Colonie, we do need to look towards redevelopment opportunities. Central Avenue certainly has a lot of great potential in terms of infill redevelopment for commercial and retail. But we also have some significant industrial areas in the town where we could be doing more to attract businesses, and working with our planning and economic development department to make sure that we're marketing that in conjunction with our partners at the Colonie Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crummey.
Thank you very much, Mary. And smart growth includes creating an atmosphere where we encourage community and stakeholder collaboration in development decisions. We should consider providing in smart growth a variety of transportation choices. We should foster distinctive and attractive neighborhoods with a strong sense of place. I believe each of our historic neighborhoods that comprise the great town of Colonie each have their own sense of place. And I would be asking the planning board, as they move forward in reviewing any proposal, that they keep an eye on the architectural essentials of that particular neighborhood. So no longer do we just get a run-of-the-mill building that's been put up that is the same one that's been put up all over the United States, but something that pays attention to our communities and our specific neighborhoods. I also believe that smart growth is important to create walkable neighborhoods, so our families can walk through neighborhoods and into other neighborhoods. And as we know from our COVID shutdown, how important it is for all of us to get out and walk and enjoy the town landscape. I also believe that smart growth means making development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will go to you first, Mr. Crummey. And the question is, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many of our businesses have moved people to home offices. This has caused an abundance of vacant or soon-to-be vacant commercial office space in Colonie, as the businesses don't need as much space. What can the town do to help reuse or repurpose the vacant space?
Thank you, Mary. As many of you already know, my main focus on development in this town is repurposing existing sites. And I believe I have the capacity day one to bring all parties together to help me do that for you. With the support of the labor unions that continue to support my campaign, business and community leaders, and individuals and families, together, day one, we can bring these solutions to the table. And I look forward to doing that. We have to be in front of it. I've recognized already that we have opportunities for big box stores to go vacant. And how will we manage that? Because it'll be a blight on our community if we allow that to continue. Sharp leadership will make sure that we keep moving on that and encouraging people to reinvest in existing spaces as opposed to merely looking for open fields in order to build the next building. Let's support the idea of repurposing what we have in this community. For me, I want no red X's in Colonie. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maticha.
This is a very important issue in Colonie, not only just on the aesthetics. People have lots of comments about Central Avenue when they're driving through town, but this also has serious ramifications for our taxpayers. Our two largest taxpayers in the town of Colonie are Corporate Woods and Colonie Center. And to the question, the person who wrote the question about the pandemic, like absolutely, I don't think people are coming back to offices the way they did before the pandemic. And I'm not 100% sure that they're going to be continuing their retail habits of going to places like Colonie Center. So how are we going to move forward and making sure that whatever we decide to do as a community is based in the community? If we've seen anything, particularly with the challenges of getting Tobin First Prize redeveloped, today they made some big moves in the demolition, but that process has been going on for literally decades. So we need to make sure that we are in constant communication with our neighborhoods, that we're asking them, what are the uses that are going to make sense for your community? What is going to improve your quality of life in this neighborhood as we're redeveloping? We don't want to redevelop just for the sake of redeveloping. We want to make sure that we're producing great outcomes for all of our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be answered by you first, Ms. Matisha. And the question is, the previous two Colonie town supervisors gave up or resigned their employment to become full-time supervisor. Will you resign from any paid employment you currently have in order to be a full-time supervisor if elected? Why or why not?
Absolutely. Colonie is the second largest municipality in not just the capital region, but from Syracuse all the way up to Canada, all the way down to Rockland. We are such a complex community, and managing all of the diverse needs and all of the diverse services that we have here is 100% a full-time job. I would absolutely resign any current position that I have in order to do my best by the people of Colonie so that they know they've got someone who's rolling up her sleeves every day and is 100% focused on delivering results for the people of Colonie.
Thank you. Mr. Crummy.
Thank you very much, Mary. And as our town knows, I stepped off the bench in March of 2021 in order to engage in this important race for Colonie Town Supervisor. As we know, if a judicial officer seeks non-judicial office, they have to step down the day they announce for office, which I did, because I believe this race is crucial to the future of the town of Colonie. As far as resigning from practicing law, and I have been practicing law for 40 years now, and I am definitely leaving the practice of law in order to take my legal capacity to serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the town of Colonie. That will be the only employment that I would be maintaining as I move forward, and it would be a great honor for me to be able to serve our town in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes to you first, Mr. Crummy, and the question is, the capital region has seen an uptick in crime over the last 2 years, and Colonie is no exception. Do you feel the Colonie Police Department is properly staffed and funded to meet this challenge? And what other strategies would you deploy to help reduce crime in town?
Thank you very much, Mary. And it's my position that there's no finer police force in the state of New York than the Colonie Police Department. And I believe they have the capacity to carry out their duties as they have so effectively throughout the history of the Colonie Police Department. There are other incoming factors, though, that have negatively impacted the world of policing as we know it. First and foremost, police have been run down in many different ways, and in some communities aren't supported by their chief executive officer. So their morale is low, and they don't feel that anybody has their back. Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm elected your town supervisor, you know I'll have your back. And if you need the resources to do law enforcement, I will encourage the town board in a bipartisan manner to help deliver that to you. It's vital to the citizens of the town of Colonie that we can feel safe in our homes and feel safe walking in our parks and feel safe while we're shopping at stores. As we know, Colonie is the downtown of the capital region, and many people come into the town and they, for purposes less desirable than we would like, and it's encouraged problems along the way. But we want the Colonie Police to be able to meet that, and they need to know that I'll support them and I have their back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Maticha.
Absolutely. As I stated before, there's nothing more important to me than the health and safety of Colonie residents. And to that point, the Colonie Police are such a critical component of health and safety here in Colonie. We are so fortunate to have such amazing partners that are in our schools working as school resource officers, that they are holding community events. They are truly integrated throughout the community as Little League coaches, as, soccer parents, and with the residency requirement, so many of the Colonie Police are our neighbors and our friends. In terms of what they need moving forward, as a data person, I always want to go right to the experts and I want to look at the data. So while in Colonie over the last, since 2014, property crime has dropped off significantly, certainly from 2019 to 2020, we've had a sharp increase in violent crime. However, when we look at the long-term trends of that, we're relatively stable, that the 7-year average of violent crimes is about 77 in the town of Colonie. And so last year, I believe we were at 83. So that's 83 people who have been harmed, and we are so fortunate to have our police department that is looking after those people. But again, I would look right to our police department and to the data to find out how can we change our policing and how can we maintain our policing to address our community needs.
Thank you. The next question will go to you first, Ms. Maticha. And the question is, in your view, what role do locally owned and operated small businesses play in the character and livability of a town like Colonie?
Absolutely. Small businesses are truly the, heart blood of a community. I think nationally the statistic is that 64% of all new jobs are generated by small businesses. And certainly I have many friends that operate small businesses that are an absolute delight to patron. However, it is difficult to be a small business owner. There's a lot of uncertainty, and certainly with the pandemic, that was difficult. So Town Hall does need to do, I think, more to support our small businesses. We need to give them clear, understandable, predictable processes so that they can understand how they can expand. We're working with our business partners in the Colonie Chamber and the Capital Region Chamber to make sure that we're giving them every support they can to thrive, and that not just attracting new small businesses, but that we're retaining, because that's how you build a community, is by creating a network of cafes and stores that people feel ownership over, because it's their neighborhood, it's their community, and those businesses are their neighbors too.
Thank you, Mr. Crummey.
Thank you very much, Mary. And as we all know, a small business is the backbone of our community. My family ran a small business in downtown Albany from 1864 to 1977. So I'm well aware of the impact of small business, and when an economy takes a downturn, how hard it is for a small business to be able to turn the ship around. Nonetheless, I believe how we can encourage small business and in our town, and they will help us repopulate some closed stores so we can get new people working in those stores and repurpose those existing stores. The problem is The town process is often difficult to navigate for a small business person, and the review process is very challenging, and sometimes such that they choose not to even open in Colonie because the process is difficult to navigate. So let's do this. Let's appoint a project manager to help small businesses navigate the town review process, so it's followed from beginning to end, and so that our applicants don't have to guess and wonder and try to figure out which department is supposed to do this and that. It should be a seamless process, especially as we're merely trying to repurpose existing structures that are already been used for commercial uses. Let's help small business navigate the process. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll answer the next question first. And that question is, what incentives would you provide for housing affordability that will encourage mixed income developments and multi-generational neighborhoods?
Well, as far as incentives are concerned to bring in new bodies, I suppose we already have subsidized housing in our town already. As you know, in my duties in the court system and as the zoning board of appeals, there's already subsidized housing in the town of Colonie. Creating new subsidized housing, if there's a demand and it works, it's okay. But right now, the town of Colonie enjoys the most diversified housing opportunities throughout the capital region. So I believe we already have plenty of housing stock available for everyone who wants to join our town. And you know what? People are coming every day to our great town of Colonie. They want to be here because they know it's a great place to live, work, and play. And I believe that as long as we maintain proper economies of scale in our government, people will continue to want to enjoy the town of Colonie. So there's going to have to be a stated need and a demonstrative, a report as to what we're missing and why somebody else can't come into the town. All I hear is that they're worried about having more people in the town. So let's make sure that there's a need that needs to be filled before we just go out and start some new housing project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mahija.
Thank you so much, Mary. This is an issue that speaks closely to my heart, having worked for Colonie Senior Service Centers for 5 years. And they actually operate a subsidized housing building in Latham, as well as they were in the process of building one while I was there. And I will say, from listening to neighbors at the door, there is a concern among many of our older residents that when they are no longer able to maintain their own homes, they don't want to have to leave this community that they raised their children in, but they're worried about what their options are. Just to get into a mid-level building like Beltrone, the waiting list can be over a year. And for some families and older adults, that's just not workable. When people have to leave their homes, sometimes they need to do it quickly. So I think absolutely we need to go back to our comprehensive planning process. We need to do that neighborhood level planning to talk about what people are looking for as they live and work and age in the town of Colonie, and that we do have lots of opportunities. We also shouldn't forget that in terms of incentives, time is money. And if we decide as a community that providing housing for our honored older adults, if we decide, for example, as Guilderland recently did an intergenerational housing program where foster parents were able to have a unit in the same building as older adults, and you start to foster that sense of community. If we decide as a community that that's the kind of project we want to bring to Colonie, if we have a developer that's interested in doing that project and it makes sense for the neighborhood, we absolutely should encourage that by incentivizing them with a faster and more sped up process through our sometimes cumbersome development review process. Thank you.
Thank you. You get the next question first. And the question is, how can the town of Colonie prepare itself for resiliency in the face of increasingly frequent and extreme weather events?
Absolutely. So clearly, climate change is a big concern. It's on people's minds, particularly after we saw the intense heat of the summer. We've been seeing, even just here in the capital region, with the increase in large storm events, it's increasing turbidity in the Mohawk River, and that's our water source. That has a direct impact on our Latham water budget and how we're treating our water, which is a pretty significant issue that we've been talking about here in Colonie over the last year. So clearly, we need to do everything that we can to be a climate smart community, but then we also need to be more clear-eyed about how we're going to respond. Are we creating the opportunities for facilities that allow people to weather out the instability of climate change?
Thank you. Mr. Crummey.
Thank you, Mary. And again, it brings this right home in so many ways. We have been subject to some violent storms here over the past few years, and I can tell you our basement floods every time. Look, I believe we have to prepare for further storms like this, and we need to meet the challenge. What I would do right away is take a comprehensive inventory of our storm water management system so that we can see up front what we might have to do in our infrastructure to make sure we can meet next year's issues. And that's what I'm proposing to do, and taking that inventory immediately. We will have to step up and meet the challenge. Weather has been quite challenging to us, not only in the town, but throughout the state of New York and throughout the world. We want to make sure if we want a sustainable community here in the town of Colonie, we have to protect our assets and meet the new challenges, and so that our children and their children can also live here in the town of Colonie, just like I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crummey, you'll answer the next question first. The question is, the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals do not currently make publicly available some important town-required documents prior to public discussion. Town-designated engineers' reports, for example. How will you change this?
Well, I don't think that sounds appropriate to me. I can tell you, as the zoning board attorney, we always made our agendas available 2 weeks in advance. Why? Because they had to be published in the local newspaper well in advance to meet the publication requirements. And all documents were readily available at the time. So I don't know why we wouldn't be doing that. I see the state of New York just passed a law that requires at least a 24-hour notice of all documents before the actual meeting. I'd like to do better than that. There's no reason why documents shouldn't be prepared well in advance and made available to all concerned citizens of the town. And I will work to make sure that happens.
Thank you. Ms. Mahija.
No, thank you. Absolutely, there is no reason that our agendas and our documents that are pertaining to any planning or zoning matter, or honestly any matter that appears before a town board, whether it is the town board or the ethics board, all of those should be available on our website. This is 2021. There's no reason not to have this level of transparency. And that includes items from our contractors, such as the TDEs. I think another issue that we have on this topic, though, is also how we're notifying people, right? We often hear that people, when they're responding to a development that's happening in their neighborhood, they're like, I had no idea about it. And often the response is, well, didn't you see the pink placards? And I think we need to go beyond that. I think we need to utilize technology such as SMS texting, that people can sign up for alerts on if there's development happening in their neighborhood. They're going to get a text message, or they're going to have a push from an email newsletter. That certainly have the capability to be more proactive in our communication with our residents. We should be taking advantage of all of these methods. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll answer the next question first. The question is, what types of development do you think benefit our town, and what types create fiscal burdens, and how?
Great question. clearly redevelopment, right, is the way to go. If you've got a vacant building, you're dealing with issues relating to crime, relating to issues relating to aesthetics, and it's not helping anybody. It's not helping our tax base. It's not helping in any level of productivity. So clearly redevelopment should be a number one priority, that we are focusing our planning and economic development department and our industrial development agency laser focused on making sure that we are working with property owners of vacant properties to make sure that they're reutilized into productive uses that add to our community. In terms of land uses that are not necessarily productive for a community, I think we need to have a conversation about how we do single family residential development in Colonie. The first thing they teach you in planning school is the great thing about commercial development is that dumpsters don't call 911. In terms of commercial properties are much lower users of public services. So to that end, with our residential developments, we need to look more strongly into conservation overlays, that we are doing residential development in locations of the town where we have existing services that are able to support that, and that we have an opportunity to think intelligently about how any development is impacting not just our tax base, but the residents that are adjoining, their quality of life. That's critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crummy.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you for asking that important question as well. Look, vacant structures are a detriment to our bottom line here in the town of Colonie. And we must step up and be aggressive about seeking to repurpose these structures so that they can get back on a viable tax roll, which benefits the entire town. So that's really the focus that I have prioritized in connection with redevelopment. I do know that there's some talk about in creating density and using density to the advantage of the overall green space of the town. And I'm certainly willing to, consider those proposals as well. But let's make sure that we can shore up our tax base by maintaining and repurposing buildings and lots that are now not being used as fully and as completely as they could. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes to you first, Mr. Crummy, and it is, what will be done to improve the cellular reception service for emergency use?
Thank you very much, Mary. That's a key component, a key piece and tenet of my campaign this year. There are many dead spots in cell service in the town of Colonie, and highlighted in the south end of our town. In fact, the chief of the Shaker Road Loudonville Fire Department is asking me to get that fixed. It's a public safety issue now that people are trying to call from a cell phone for help from our emergency medical services, our fire departments, and our police, and the calls are dropping. I have to go into the attic of my house to get a cell call out of the house. It's hard to believe in this day and age, and that we live where we live in between cities and the population base that we have in this county, that somehow in the town of Colonie, we don't have complete cell service. It's also a problem for our folks that are now living at home and working from home. Their employers, many of them had said you have to stay at home and work, and they're telling me that they can't complete their work assignments at their house because they don't have the adequate service. I will make that a number one priority. I've said so publicly a number of times, and it's time that we fill the hole. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Matisha.
No, thank you, Mary. This is certainly an important issue, particularly in my part of town. Every day when I drive home from work, I call my mom, and my call is dropped right on Crumity Road. And when we were out talking to neighbors, that was one of the number one issues, is their concern about their lack of cell service. And certainly from the public safety aspect, and also in the schooling aspect, right? So many children were remote learning, and if you don't have Wi-Fi enabled in your home, that's a huge issue. The answer is not so easy. There are two two solutions, right? We can do large towers or we can take advantage of small cell technology. Fortunately, in that part of Colonie, Verizon has already run the fiber optic network underneath the major roads, so that we do have an opportunity, certainly with the town of Colonie taking over the lights, the lamps, and installing all of the new LED lights, that there is now technology the size of a shoebox that you can fit nicely right on top of a street light head. And certainly with that network, you can create enough connectivity to improve all of Route 9, all of Crummity, Albany Shaker Road, Maxwell. And certainly that is a process that we can achieve by offering incentives through speeding up the review process for siting these small cell towers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mahitra, you'll have the next question first. And it is, and it might be the last one. It depends. Do you think the town spending is in line with its revenue?
Do I think the town's spending is in line with the revenue? Obviously the fact that we're relying on essentially payday lending to get us through the end of every year, which is causing us to be susceptible to fiscal stress, we certainly need to look at this issue. And I think we need to make sure that however we land on aligning our revenues and expenditures, that we need to be creative in how we're addressing this, and that we can't keep going back to our residential taxpayers, our commercial taxpayers, that we need to talk about other ideas. So Albany County, for example, has just cited a solar field near the airport that's going to be generating a lot of power that can offset their utility bills. Colonie should be looking at this. We should be looking at ways to make our buildings more energy efficient. We should be looking at ways to be smarter with our resources. And to that point, when we're talking about budgeting, it's just simple economics that we all learned, right, in home ec in 11th grade in high school, that you can't spend more than you bring in. And so we need to make sure that we are aligning our spending with our income. And that's something that should be a community-wide conversation, and that we should consider having a citizen review board on the annual budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crummey.
Thank you very much, Mary. And as to town finances and spending, the last thing we ever should do is increase taxes before we've gone through the spending that's already in place. We need to look for opportunities to restart this budget process so that we can move forward in a healthy way. The Town of Colonie budget for 2021 was set at $100 million. The proposed 2022 budget is an increase of $5 million, set at $105 million. As a result, the basis to support the $5 million increase also anticipates increased tax revenue for new taxable events coming online for 2022. But nonetheless, though, it's worrisome for all of us that if we can't generate new sources of income at our town waste facility that's managed by Waste Management, we are getting $950,000 a year by using the methane to electricity transfer or selling that methane that's kicked off. We should look at more opportunities just like that. What do we have in energy that we could consider ramping up? I'd like to consider doing an immediate study on the feasibility of adding solar panels to town properties so that we can further enjoy some financial relief in that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary, can I use my red card?
Certainly.
Thank
1
you.
minute.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate Peter's comments about managing spending increases, especially in light of the fact that our court budget expenditures increased 25% from 2015 to 2020. So when we look at, the modest increase of 2.7% for the total town budget, over the last year, I think it provides some perspective. And I think that when we're talking about opportunities for generating income, certainly we need to look at the issue with the backlog of court cases and the fact that due to issues, thank you, Mary Kate, due to issues that are not quite totally understandable that we have before the pandemic, possibly thousands of cases that are backlogged. And with many police officers nearing retirement age, those cases are in jeopardy, and that is a significant amount of revenue that will be forever lost to the town of Colonie. So certainly we do need to be more responsible in how we're doing our budgeting of our expenditures, but also really need to think about all opportunities for pulling new income in. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Do I have an opportunity for 1 minute?
You do.
Yes, and thank you very much. My opponent speaks to the Colonie court system, which is one of the finest court systems in the state of New York and one of the busiest court systems. Each year, our criminal caseload alone was in the top 25 criminal court dockets in the entire state of New York. So it's a large process involving so many moving pieces. We were down staff for so long and arguing that an increase in the town court budget was to our advantage. We were down 5 staff. It's really an insult to the staffers of the Colonie court to suggest that they're doing something wrong. In addition, as judges know, and as attorneys know, a court system is not designed to generate revenue. I find that rather repulsive to think that my opponent would like to use the court system to generate revenue. That's an inappropriate use of the town court. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to close. I want to thank you, the candidates, and our co-sponsors, the Spotlight News and the Colonie Chamber of Commerce, for making this evening's event possible. Don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November 2nd. Ms. Maticha will begin with a closing statement.
Thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate that. All right, so as we've heard this evening, there are a lot of major issues that are facing our town, and our residents do have clear priorities that they'd like to advance. For Colonie to move forward, we need a leader with experience in planning. We need an experienced leader with economic development, and they need experience in community outreach and communication. I get that urban planning isn't sexy or exciting, and it's not the stuff that Hollywood is going to make a West Wing episode about. And you can ask my teenagers, who they are bored to tears listening to conversations about municipal infrastructure maintenance plans at our dinner table. But planning is the stuff that makes a difference in people's lives. It's about making sure that people have safe drinking water, well-maintained streets, and it takes a data nerd who can stare at spreadsheets for hours and a facilitator to manage long, emotional meetings with neighbors to resolve issues and solve the problems that matter to people. We don't need a campaigner. We need a planner. We need someone who's ready to roll up their sleeves and get to work. Someone with unmatched energy and enthusiasm who has the unmatched experience of working in our local public, private, and nonprofit sectors. Our town does not need lofty promises or wishful thinking. We need a plan, and we need a real planner. That's who I am, that's what I do, and that's why I'm looking forward to being your next supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crummy.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you all for joining in this evening and taking the time to participate in this candidate forum. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors as well. I'd like to thank my family for joining me once again in this campaign. Every day I remain grateful for your continued love and support. I'd like to thank the individuals, families, labor unions, businesses, and community leaders who support my candidacy for Colonie Town Supervisor, including the hardworking men and women of our Capital Region Building and Construction Trades Council, our carpenters, our steel and iron workers, our bricklayers, and our laborers, the Teamsters, our CSEA, who represents a large portion of our town employees, the New York State Troopers, PBA, and the Albany County Deputy Sheriff's, PBA, former presidents of the Colonie Police, PBA, and former Colonie Chief of Police, John Teal. You have all demonstrated your undying support for my candidacy. I am humbled and grateful. Town residents deserve a competent leader at Town Hall, a leader who listens, collaborates, and cares, a leader to manage our town's finances and resources wisely, equitably, and competently. As you know, I have worked for our town for decades in a variety of leadership capacities. I want to make your days in Colonie as great as they can be. I ask you to allow me to bring my unmatched experience to serve you as our town supervisor. I want to ensure that we have an effective, responsible town government, building a better Colonie for all. I'm Peter Crummy, and I ask for your vote on November 2nd, and have a good night.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for being attentive viewers. And don't forget, you have 3 ways to vote by November 2nd. You can participate in early voting, you can vote by absentee ballot, and you can go in person on Tuesday, November 2nd. And remember to turn your ballot over and vote on the propositions. Thank you again, and have a good evening.